to Three Guys and a Brit, an international podcast where we go over many subjects. As usual, I am Joko, along with Jeej, Windu, and Caveman. Now, today we're going to talk about kids identifying as LGBTQ+. But before we start, let's give a shout out to our top comments on YouTube. Shout out to Stunt V87, Anthony, and Bristle for great conversations they started on our last video. So Please go ahead and check them out. Hey. So now let's get this conversation started. So Windu, start it off.
All right, so I don't know. Let me just pose a question to you guys, because this is a sensitive subject, as we know, right? I love that. That stuff, that stuffed animal, bro. Oh, but it's so it's a touchy subject for a lot of people, right? I guess I'm gonna start it off by asking, how should us as adults react when a child, and I'll specifically say a child under the age of 18, right, comes out and says, hey, I am LGBTQ plus. How would you guys react personally? Let's just start there. Like, if your kids came out and said like that.
So my first original reaction would be, okay, we need to figure this out together, because he's my child, of course, and whatever he chooses to be, it's his option, you know what I mean, or his choice. So I'm not gonna like straight away say no, but first we're gonna figure out, try to understand his point of view, you know, have this conversation so I can understand where he's coming from before I can help him out in any way. So that's where I will start off with, first of all, right? So I don't know about Windu, you, Caveman, or Jeej, how you would do it, but that's how I would approach it in my sense, because it's easier for me to do it in that way so that I can clearly understand where he's coming from. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Go ahead, because I don't have kids, so.
I mean, I think you do everything out of love. You know, if your kid comes up to you and says, hey, I feel this sort of way, you embrace them in love, you know, first and foremost, and you let them know that regardless of whatever happens, you're going to love them, you know, because they're your kids. And second of all, you ask them if they understand what that is, or what their definition of LGBTQ is to them. Plus. You know, a plus, can't forget the plus. So I mean, you definitely want to ask questions at that point to really kind of see where they're at and see if it's, I don't know, man, maybe them, or maybe they heard their friends, or like, you really want to know what your kid is coming from, you know? So you ask those questions.
And I mean, it's just at that same time too, is it's like, you do want to know where this information is coming from. If it's coming from school, if it's coming from friends, what they're watching, you know, what they're reading, you know, because at that age, man, kids are like sponges. And they honestly just, especially from like the ages, like I find that the ages from like 8 to like 13, they're like sponges. They want to be, you know, they see their dad, or they see their dad doing, for kids, you know, their dad's active outside. He does, let's say, softball. All right. Of course, they're going to want to get interested in the softball. They see him all the time watching on TV. They see him watching basketball or something, or they're going to be interested in that. They're like, they're sponges. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So where are people going wrong? And I shouldn't say people going wrong. Where are they? What are the kids watching where the people are showing this information to these kids and making them think, hey, I may be gay, or hey, I may be bi, or hey, I think I'm a man, but I'm trapped in a woman's body, or vice versa. So it's where that information is coming. And as people, as parents, or even as aunts, uncles, grandparents, you need to understand, because, you know, these kids don't know any better. They don't know what that stuff means. They don't know what the actual real world is, you know?
Yeah.
So like, if, like, say an instance of my nieces came up, because I don't have any kids, but hey, I mean, my nieces came up because they feel comfortable talking to me or their aunt, and said, hey, I feel this way. Okay, well, why? The biggest question is why.
Mm-hmm.
Like also
You
we
know?
gotta understand this point as well. Like when we say under 18, there are a specific teenage part, right? Between the ages of 14 to 18, right? I would say 14 to 18 because that makes
I would agree. Like
of a sense because
teenagers are in a different category by themselves as opposed to like
Exactly.
preteens or younger, for sure.
Yeah. So 14 to 18, right? If they came up and told you this, it'll be a different kind of a conversation you would have as opposed to anyone under the age of 14 on how you approach it, right? So first of all, like when you approach, let's just say your 15-year-old child comes up to you and it says, oh, I identify as a gay individual, right? Or whatever it is. So my first approach is, okay, explain more to me as to why you feel that way. You know what I mean? That's how I would take that first step because they are teenagers, they can still think for themselves. They can understand what's going on because at this point they have already absorbed enough information. They'll even probably go on Google and try and find information over there just by, having on their phone, go on Google, like, oh, what is
Or
it like to
YouTube
be, you know what I mean? Exactly. That's what I'm saying. There's plenty of information out there, for them, and also be part of groups, online group chats, whatever it is that, we don't know about because we can't be there 24/7 and just approach them in a sense, be like, oh, okay, so explain more to me as to why you feel that way. So
But I'm going to touch on that though. Because you say you're not around 24/7, which as parents they're not. But is that also going to show a bad sign towards parents that they're not watching what their kids are doing? What they're not watching, what their kids are watching?
No. See, the thing is, you have to establish a relationship with your child as to be like, listen, when I'm saying I'm not going to be there 24/7, is I'm physically not going to be there 24/7 because of work commitment issues, whatever I'm doing, etc., right? But however, you got to be there for them in a way where they can come up to you even after you finish work and come up to you and be like, yo, dad, I need to sit down and I need to have a word with you. So and so. You need to have that kind of a bond and relationship. You need to work on it from the get-go so that they're more comfortable for you to, they can come and approach you. If you're a closed-minded person as a parent, they're not going to approach you, bro. They're just going to be like, you know what? I can't get through to my dad just on a normal basic information or basic conversation. So this conversation, if I'm going to have with my dad, I don't even know what I'm going to expect.
I mean, this is coming from me though. Like I've always had a decent relationship with my father, all right? But I know as growing up, it was, oh shit, don't let me piss the old man off. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like It was more of like a hard, like, it wasn't that he was mad at me that hurt more. It was I'm disappointed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it was that point. Now that I'm older, it's me and my father like this. It's like a different relationship. It's not like he's not there being a father anymore. I mean, he is. He's just always been my dad. But he's there now as also a friend. Now I notice like when you hit that age, like 10, let's actually go with like 12 to like 16, 17. You don't need your dad to be a friend at that age. I mean, you do, because you need to be able to trust your dad. But as a parent, what I find is you need to find that fine line.
It's our job to mold them.
It's that fine line of being a friend and being a parent. So that's why I said, like, is it really for these young kids to come out and say, I am LGBTQ plus whatever? That's what I'm saying is the parents' fault that they're allowing these outreaches to come to their kids to decide this at a really young age?
I wouldn't say it's the parents' fault, because you see, regardless of how
regardless of a relationship with parents, you could still feel a specific way. You get me?
Yeah. Like, so I listen.
Yeah, carry on. Sorry. Carry on.
I'm sorry, bro. I didn't mean to, but I think it's I mean, even in the most the best situation possible, you know, there's still going to be some people that don't have, I don't know, it's just that one thing that's blocking them from coming out, you know. So am I going to make my parent disappointed? Like I listened to this podcast, the Joe Rogan podcast, and he had this guest, his name was Kristen Beck. And this dude, well, I said he was biologically a male, but he was the epitome of what it is to be a man. He was a Navy SEAL, you know, he played sports, athlete, like everything, you know, a dad wants out of their son, you know.
He was a man's man.
Yeah, and then it took him a while to come out because all along he said he'd felt that he was different, you know, that he was a woman trapped inside a man's body. And he didn't come out until he was 20. But he said that his childhood, his parents were awesome, they were supportive people, but it's just that shame.
Oh, he cut out.
We lost him.
That Burger King Wi-Fi. The Burger King Wi-Fi.
No, but we're waiting on him. But it's that, yeah.
So
we're gonna pause on that.
Let me go off of what Caveman was saying, right? So it's not. See, you can't blame parents regardless of what it is because the information. Look at him; he's just frozen, bro.
Oh, he's back.
Just blame. No, he's back to being frozen again. So you know that big.
No, he's normal, bro. He's there.
Oh, I'm back.
So going off of what you were saying, Caveman, right? So it's not technically parents' fault because at the end of the day, it's you know. You learn from your mistakes what your parents were doing, right? So to you, for example, my dad was a hard ass person, right? So it was difficult for me to go and speak to anyone. Just like with my mom, right? It's difficult for me to speak with her. But at the end of the day, you learn from their mistakes, right? So you be like, listen, okay, so these are the things that I was not able to approach with my family. So I'm going to make it easier for my child. For him to be, of course, like what Jeej was saying, you got to set the boundary as a parent at the same time as the individual that your child can come talk to during any difficult period. So you got to create this kind of like a sense of environment for them to be in this comfortable spot for them to come and chat to you regardless of what the conversation is. Like, you know, if my child comes up to me is like, yo, dad, I need to have a serious conversation with you. All right, cool, we'll have a serious conversation, you know, just make him more comfortable that way. But at the same time, during the other periods, I'll be a parent regardless. I'll be like, listen, bro, go clean your dishes, go wash your pots, you know what I mean, go clean up, go do your vacuum, this, that, and everything. But at the end of the day, it's just how I approach as an individual parent towards my child. And at the same time, with the support of my wife, we can tackle the issues if they're having a difficult process in regards to any issue, not just with LGBTQ plus situations, right? But at the same time, in regards to any difficult circumstances with their life. So that's how you have to approach, you know, your child to be like, all right, I can speak to my dad or I can speak to my mom in this particular thing, in this sense of topic, and I don't have any kind of a biased point of view or anything like that. I can be more comfortable and more free. You know what I mean? So that's how I would be like.
Yeah, but that's the problem though. It's that's the ideal world. You know, the problem is that we have parents now that would rather just hand a phone to a kid and say, here you go, be distracted for a couple hours while I finish work or while I do go to the gym or something. You know, that's the main issue, is that you have a lot of people that are confused or using that as an excuse because they feel some type of way or they learned from somebody else and not from their parents. You know, when a kid comes up to you and say, hey dad, I need to talk to you, that's because you put the groundwork to earn the trust and build that relationship. And that's not the case nowadays.
Yeah,
you know? Like we talked about in the last podcast, where we have, organizations like Disney and companies like that are spreading a message, and those kids that are just left alone to be raised by the TV or be raised by their phones, they're picking up that information, and they have that confusion, and they don't have that pathway to speak to their parent to say, hey, listen, this is going on, can you help me out? I'm having issues, you know.
Yeah,
that's not the case.
but it's also like it's a good conversation as well, because obviously caveman, I assume you got kids, obviously, so you know exactly the situation.
Ask him how many.
You know how many kids you got, bro?
5.
Oh,
one on the way. One on the way.
Oh,
So he's at 6.
6.
Dang,
he's at 6. Damn, bro.
6 that he knows of.
Congratulations.
He knows of.
Yo, I can't.
Congratulations, by the way, on the 6th
Thank you,
one,
bro.
you know
Thank
what I mean?
you, man.
But
Thank
as
you.
a new parent, Windu, as a new parent, how does this come into play for you?
I mean, I'll tell you the first thing that pops to mind is I would probably react differently because I have a daughter. Caveman might be able to elaborate a little bit, having both, you know, boys and daughters, right? Sons and daughters. But we were all raised in, like, let's say the last 30 years, right? We were all raised in an environment that if a girl ever came out and said that she was lesbian, you most of the time you don't even take that shit seriously. It's like that shit might be a phase. You know what I mean?
Right.
But then if a guy came out and said he was gay, it was like, hey man, there ain't no U-turn there. He's gay. That was the mindset for the past 30 years. That was the mindset, legit. You get me?
Yeah.
So I'd probably say that, like, first of all, I'd behave differently just because I do have a daughter specifically. Like, I might be over here, like, you get me? I'm going to support her. I'm going to be here for you. Let's talk about it. Anything you want to share, I got you. I'm here not only as head of the household, but also as somebody that she can share with at all times. But then at the same time, I'm like, I'm going to be real with you. You don't even know your blood type. So this is a conversation that we're going to have to talk about as time goes on. You feel me?
Yeah.
So, and that's the thing. Like, I think it comes down to understanding, or the lack thereof, on both sides, right? Because it must be a very confusing time as a kid overall if you ever go through situations like that. And it must be a very confusing time as a parent also. Because I've heard of parents, like, I can tell you, like, we've had family members that ended up being gay. I got uncles and aunts that are gay, bi, lesbian, the whole shebang, right? And it's to the point that they are loved and accepted within our family. But I know growing up, I heard my family members, they, like, on one side, they're like, we love them and we accept it. And on the other side, they couldn't help and think, it's like, well, what happened? Like, at some point, the car had to go down a specific road. Why was there a left turn? Why was there a right turn, etc.? And I think you find that a lot of times, sorry, just to kind of get this out, I think you find a lot of times, especially with the last, like, 100 years, you find a lot of times that we end up being the way we are because our parents forced us to be that way and made us that way. Right? Like, how many times as we were a kid, you might have done the simplest gesture that was totally innocent to you as a kid. And I was like, hey, cut that shit out. That's gay. I don't even know what that means, but okay. I'm sorry. Like, you feel me?
True.
Like, you got to be mindful. Like, even though we were molded in that mindset, us as adults, we do mold our kids. So I think it would be ignorant to say that it's just a kid reaction, because we are based out of our environment. We learn from our environment, we adapt from it, we grow in it, we thrive in it. So sitting, like, it could be a total preference. Like, for example, I know it doesn't 100% relate, but for example, I grew up in a household that absolutely hated video games. In my household, they hated video games my entire life.
I agree.
It was a waste of time. Like, that's how you end up being on no life. You're never gonna have a career, video games, etc. And just that mindset made me want to play them even more because they weren't allowed. You get me?
I just want to be a rebel.
And I know a lot of kids that their parents were so anti-gay, anti-lesbian, anti-bi, anti-trans, like, that they literally were like, you know what? Since my parents don't like that shit, I'm gonna see what that shit's about. I'm gonna start hanging out with this type of people just because they don't like it. Because fuck them, they don't do shit for me. You get me? And so they like, in whatever the choice the kid chooses, I do think it's important to support it. But I think it's important to also have a conversation of that choice has to get presented somehow. You get me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Culture
I mean,
has
really-
a lot to do with it, you know?
Oh yeah,
True.
but I mean, see, talking on the culture, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna do it really early today, guys. I'm gonna throw my tin hat on.
Hey, let's go.
The shades.
Shades.
Is this the part of today's society is where we're starting to see a lot more kids and a lot more people start coming out into this new identity in this new group? Could it be done by the food that we consume, by the hormones that are given to cows, chickens, that are being processed from the food?
I mean,
To being like the kind of like alterly like to
Be a soy
like,
boy?
altering
I
the genetics from a boy being a boy to a girl being a girl to wanting to be a boy to wanting to be a girl. You know what I mean? Like,
so
I'm just trying to figure out like could it be
so here I'll put on my tinfoil hat with you, right?
Oh.
Like, so here's my thing. Here's my thing on it.
Tinfoil hat.
Ah.
Yeah, get him out of here. Get him out of here. Delete the cam. But no. So here's what I'll say. I don't know if I can get behind the fact that stuff like, you know, what we ingest has is the difference, right? But I know for a fact that it's like that old saying, the whole one bad apple ruins the barrel. I know for a fact that at the end of the day, whenever it comes down to what we ingest into our bodies, both health-wise and mental-wise, that can have an effect. There's a reason why there's organizations that lobby, you know, against like, what is it, like non-GMO products and shit like that. Like, we know for a fact that it affects our body, and the mental state could be in there as well, because hormone imbalance can come from poor diet, quite frankly, in general. Like, even if you eat fast food nonstop and only fast food, that's bound to have some effect physically and mentally on your well-being. You get me? So
I mean, look at soy. Soy is known to have a massive
take these off.
hormone imbalance. Yeah, these are then that's over. But like soy is known to have like a massive like hormone imbalance check to cause
lower testosterone and higher
lower testosterone, higher estrogen. It can be harmful for during female pregnancies. They're shown to cause like small birth defects. Like there's stuff with soy that's wild. But for a while there, it's
little soy sauce on everything.
Everything was soy. You know what I mean? Like, because it was a perfect alternative for lactose. So people were feeding soy
like soy milk and shit like that. Yeah.
And now we're starting to see that generation of kid LGBTQ plus community. This is that generation where soy was huge, and they were getting fed soy as babies. You know what I mean? So is it altering, not altering their DNA, but altering their hormone imbalance, like, and that's causing their DNA to kind of be like,
So you might be onto something, because altering your hormones can affect choices, right? Like, we all know, like, let's say for example, if I'm just a fully grown adult male that doesn't exercise, stays at home all the time, you get me? Like, literally, like, no physical activity. We know that from physical activity, men naturally produce testosterone at a more rapid rate. That's why you see a lot of guys that are heavy on testosterone. They love fucking working out and shit. You get me? But it's statistically proven, especially as a man gets older, their testosterone levels get lower. Like, because there is a lack of testosterone, let's just say there's more estrogen, that doesn't necessarily mean that just because that imbalance happens, that immediately somebody's going to change the way they think or their preferences.
Yeah. And just to go off of that, I just looked online, right? And it says this is a proven fact, apparently. So, soy does not raise estrogen or lower testosterone levels in men. Misconceptions concerning soy food stems from the fact that soy is a uniquely rich source of isoflavones, which are naturally occurring plant chemicals classified as phytoestrogens, that's how you pronounce it, right? Phytoestrogens are plant components found in several different types of foods, but the amounts in soy are much greater than other foods. However, despite being classified as a plant estrogens, soybean isoflavones differ at both the molecular and clinical levels from the human hormone estrogen, right? So it's
not that it's lowering testosterone, but it's not that it's okay. So it's not that it
does not do anything.
It depresses it because soy has a gland, these fatty acids that are called polyunsaturated fatty acids, and they depress the testosterone production. So the testosterone is not being produced while estrogen keeps going. Those levels keep rising. So at that point, it can cause a shift in your chemical imbalance in your brain and how you think. That is the biggest theory behind.
Well, and not even that too, is because here's the thing. I was looking at stuff. It's like, you guys know, me and my wife were, trying to start a family here and there. So I was starting looking online on stuff that I can do, kind of like in just a daily routine without going to see a doctor and stuff.
Yeah.
And I've read, stay away from soy. As a man, stay away from soy. Because it starts lowering your testosterone, not lowering, but it depresses your testosterone count. It can actually start not being harmful to your sperm, but it starts making you have a lower sperm count to inactive because of those acids. It's not, they're not.
That's the thing. There's so much information, sporadic information out there across internet and media out there that we can't clarify it. But however, like I says over here on this specific thing, I'll send you the link so you guys can have a look too. So over here it says technically it does not do anything for human hormone estrogens, right? Or in any balance. It does not do anything in any effect for men particularly. But however, it also says that the origin of the concern about hormone disruption has a lot to do with 2 case reports, each describing individual men who experienced hormonal disturbances that allegedly occurred as a result of consuming soy food. Let me go and send you this link so you can read it with me, right? So, yeah, experienced hormonal disturbances that allegedly occur as a result of consuming soy foods. And this is important to note, each of the men described in these reports consumed extremely high amounts of soy foods, about 9 times the amount of isoflavones typically consumed by older men in Japan, a country for which soy is a traditional component of the diet. Too much of any food may lead to health problems. Furthermore, the soy intake of these 2 men occurred in the context of nutrient deficient diets, since most of their calories were derived from one food, right? So as it goes on, in contrast to the 2 case reports, extensive clinical data shows that neither soy foods nor isoflavones affect testosterone and estrogen levels in men. This is true even when intake greatly exceeds typical Japanese intake. Each serving of a minimally processed soy food provides about 25 milligrams of isoflavones or 3.5 milligrams of isoflavones per gram of protein. Generally, more refined soy products, such as isolated soy protein, have much lower isoflavones. And that falls under the category of soy, like clearly highlighted in this webpage, where it says soy does not raise estrogen or lower testosterone levels. That whole segment, it just kind of like.
But I gotta hit you on your pause because you kept saying everything was about Japanese men. All right.
No, now, but this is what is
no, but
what I'm saying.
What I'm saying is
this is where the origin of source came from, right? Because it was 2
I understand
men.
that. I understand that, but here's the thing: you kept saying Japan. Now here's where I'm getting on that is, one is 2 different regions, like massive regions.
But
all right, now
but the human body, like I'm just saying,
The human
just
body,
generally.
the human
Yeah.
body is not the same. You, like, me and you have
It's not
two
the same.
different.
I understand, but this is what they're trying to say is, geographically speaking, right? This is the area that consumes the most high amounts of soy products, right, compared to the rest of the world, right? Now, how it differs in different geographical locations, it doesn't. But however, when the information about soy affecting your testosterone or hormones or everything like that stemmed from here. Do you know what I mean? It stemmed from here. This is where they're saying that the origin source was, right? So maybe, again, media and internet is a fucking, merry-go-round, because people will publish anything and everything.
But you got to remember this. It may be, so say I grew an acre of soy in Japan and an acre of soy here, and let's just say freaking middle of Nebraska, right? It, because of geologically different soils and everything, to me, that's just saying, okay, we tested on let's just say 100 Japanese men. Everything was fine. Cool. But I can tell you, but I just think I can tell you thousands of fields that I've seen of just soy being grown in the States. How do we know that there's not a chemical that is in our ground that's not there, that's causing the soy to actually to be different than it is in Japan?
So let me break this down. Again, I think there was a misconception over here, right? What I'm saying is the claims came out from these two case reports, right? But however, clinical extensive tests after that has also proven. So it could be in different regions. What I'm saying is that these two reports came from Japan. This is where the information kind of spurted out. Do you know what I mean?
Well, can it be also the regulations of such country? Like, for example, here in the United States, we grow GMOs. We have different laws than Europe. Europe, you guys have very stringent laws on what type of pesticides, fertilizers you guys use, and I'm pretty sure it's the same in Japan. Like, everybody else, but us.
Like for example, like, I don't know. This is a recent conversation that came into my thing, right? So obviously that we are now away from EU and we're trying to make trade deals across the pond with you guys in the USA and everything like that. The majority of the concerns that a lot of general public had was like, yo, bro, they wash their chicken with chlorine. I don't want that shit. I don't want to eat nothing that's attach chlorine and food together. Like, fuck that shit. Do you know what I mean? That's the kind of general thing. But what I'm saying here in this particular conversation, right, is the original information that went across virally, I would say, the information that just spouted out was from these two cases. But however, it says specifically that after extensive test results across everywhere, it shows that it does not affect hormone levels or testosterone or estrogen levels in human beings, for men in particular. Do you know what I mean?
Right, but I'm thinking I think it's just the whole process. I'm talking about the soy. The soy itself, it's proven to depress testosterone. Then now you're spraying pesticides on this to keep all the bugs off. Those have their own chemicals, and God knows what they do to the human body. And then the fertilizer. And then let's not talk about the seed. You know, the seed has been genetically modified in the lab somewhere. You know, so like there was a study that showed that through pesticides, a frog was made gay. Yes, I saw the study. I'll look it up. I'll send it to you guys. So this frog was eating the dead bugs off of this crop. You know, they sprayed it. These bugs died or whatever. So this frog was collecting the bugs
lunch.
And ingesting. Right, exactly. So ingesting these flies that were sprayed by this pesticide, and the chemicals and the poison seeped into his body, and they studied these animals, and they found out that they were lower on testosterone, and they were trying to hump each other. You know, the male frogs were. So it's in a study. I'll send it to you guys. So it's been proven that there has been chemicals introduced to the things that we eat that are not only giving us cancer, but also shifting our sexuality.
And that's the GMOs that are not GMOs. And that's the part, like, where I say with soy is because even though soy does kind of like, it may not depress it, but you hit that with the pesticides. How do we know what those pesticides aren't chemically changing that soybean or changing the grain that your chickens eat? And then when the chickens eat that grain, what's saying that pesticides and that chemicals that are now introduced into that grain, that those chickens are not now being changed to? It's a weird thing, man. That's why food, that's why I'm wondering, is it really with the signs in these kids, and you have all this processed food, nothing's natural. You take a chicken nugget, Tyson chicken nugget, no slam on Tyson. This is a whole different podcast. We're talking about Tyson chicken, and Tyson in general. But they're all their chicken nuggets. A lot of them are processed chicken. It's not real. They don't sit there and they chunk out chicken and make chicken nuggets. They grind it to almost a paste, put it in a tube, and they run it in a tube, freeze it, batter it, and they put it in the fryer. Or, pre-fry it, and then when you get it home, you cook it. So they're giving all these processed foods. Who's not to say that it's these processed foods that these parents are just giving their kids, they're changing their hormone imbalance, changing their chemical imbalance. And it's making more of what I want to call a small time, a really small pandemic. I mean, because now kids are coming out, it's going to sound really bad on my part, and I don't mean it to sound bad at all, but it's making more kids starting to come out of the closet in many ways and not know what they're doing. So something's got to be the cause of it. I mean, there just can't be out of nowhere okay, it's time. No, there's something has to be the cause.
So let me go off of that real quick. And I'm curious as to what you guys think, because the counter argument that somebody might present is maybe the reason why there's more kids coming out is because it's more socially acceptable nowadays. How would you guys what do you guys think about that mindset?
Well, I guess it depends on what region of the world you're living in.
Mm-hmm.
I would say in the United States, sure, Canada, the UK,
Australia.
That's true, because there's still a lot of countries where it's not socially acceptable.
No.
But is it
No,
still
it's
really
not.
socially accessible in some parts of the US though?
I mean, it depends
That's
on
the
the
thing.
particular region and the location, right? So each different locations across different countries and different parts of the planet, depending on the kind of environment you're living in, and for example, let's just say tribes, right? If you lived in a particular tribe, how they go off with it, how they live their life, you follow according to their rules, their regulations, and try and follow through with it. So it's the same thing. So each particular location, depending on the people that's around, socially accepting people will be okay with it. But then afterwards, you might have another location just fucking 2 streets down my road, right? Which is totally unacceptable for you to come out in any way, right? So it's a very difficult position to be in each different situations, right? So,
Unlike where I'm at, you can go 10 miles down the road, get to St. Petersburg, and they have a fucking parade every weekend. I mean, yeah, don't get me wrong. It could just be that it's more socially acceptable, but man, my thing of it is with these kids, the reason why I said there has to be a culprit somewhere. And you just can't say, oh, it's more socially acceptable. No, because these kids don't know what they want. These kids don't know what they are. These kids don't even know what they want to be when they grow up, but they can decide, yep, I want to have a male partner for the rest of my life.
Well, then isn't that back then towards nature versus nurture, right? Because again, at that point, for example, they might not know. That's a perfectly valid point. Right. But then isn't that where the parent or the support systems around them would kick in and either encourage that or shut it down?
Well, I mean,
You get me? And
you support it. You support it, but you don't support a chemical change or an actual physical change of, oh, well, I want to be a girl now, Dad, because for whatever reason, I like Barbies or whatever, or I like dresses. I like to wear dresses. Cool, that's fine. Like we talked about earlier, maybe it's a phase, but the problem lies when you make a drastic change to your body, like for example, we were talking about the culture thing, right? So I'm Mexican, right? My parents are Mexican, and the Mexican culture is very machista. It's a man's world,
Very macho.
and we don't have time for that. You don't have time for that. God forbid, if a Mexican dad had a gay son, it'll break his heart. Oh my God, it would be 7 days of mourning. It would be
like I can.
Yeah, in Hispanic cultures, that's it's in Hispanic culture in general, and I guess that also has to do with a lot of a very strong Catholic upbringing in the majority of Hispanic cultures, right? If that ever happens, it's a really big deal in Hispanic families, for sure.
Yeah.
But see,
I can relate.
I can relate
because
because I've noticed that you say it's a really big thing in Hispanic culture, but since I've been down here, which I'm now more in a more Hispanic culture, you know what I mean?
You saying Florida's a Hispanic culture, bro?
Boy, you better know Spanish.
I need to. But I noticed, like, you say that it's a big into the culture for Hispanics to not, for their kids not to come out and all that stuff. But like, man, I see a lot of Hispanics that are out of the closet here. And I thought always the same thing. Like, it's like that's not normal, I should say.
They're here now. They're here now. But
I was gonna say, like,
in Canada, in Cuba or in Venezuela, it's a different deal.
No,
I was gonna say, like
I can completely relate
kids,
to you
but
guys
kids.
being
I'm not saying
from
adults. I'm talking about kids.
Coming from a
Here there is
mixed race family, mixed ethnic background, right? I'm telling you, I understand caveman's point of view, Windows point of view, right? But at the same time, I also understand the Caribbean point of view. Like, bro, that's a different fucking situation there too. You know what I mean? As soon as you come out gay, like, I'm disappointed in you. Get out.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
But check this out, though. Check this out, though. A southern part of Mexico, right? Sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, you're good. Yeah.
But in the southern part of Mexico, though, in the Oaxaca region, that part of Mexico is more indigenous than European. Because we have the European influence and whatnot. So down there, though, that European influence hasn't been so prevalent, right? So in that part of the
Aztec
world,
warriors.
Yeah. So that part of the world, they have 3 genders, right? They have the male, female, and they have what is called a mujer or a mujer, MUXES, right? So these people, they're considered transgendered. They're men that have the spirit of a woman, and these people are appreciated in the community. In fact, they have a prominent position in the Catholic Church. They decorate the churches. They help with the ceremonies. So it's kind of that warp, like, well, is it the religion or is it the culture? But here in that part of the world, you have a more accepting society. So that's really that's really strange.
So I want to read something to you guys. Let me read this to y'all. So this is by the Human Rights Campaign, right? They have an article that's titled Transgender Children and Youth Understanding the Basics, right? So I'm gonna read just a paragraph to you guys, and I want us to dissect it. I want first to get your reactions. How do you feel even hearing this? And then we're gonna break it down as to, is this, do you approve of this? Do you disapprove, etc. So it starts off by saying the general rule for determining, and this is, they go into different categories, but since we brought up the whole transgender thing, I want to focus on this specific piece here, because as far as, for example, gay, bi, lesbian, etc., that's more of a preference. That's just the sexual orientation interest, right? That's something that can go back and forth. They can go, they can have a specific preference. Hell, most of us were emo at one point, but that doesn't mean we are anymore. You get what I'm saying? Like, preferences can change, but this one is a little bit more of an entirely different ballpark when we go into that field. Now it says here the general rule for determining whether a child is transgender or non-binary, rather than the gender non-conforming or gender variance, because again, there's the plus that we could go into on that side, is if the child is consistent, insistent, and persistent about their transgender identity. Then the following example, they say, in other words, if your 4-year-old son wants to wear a dress and say he wants to be a girl once or twice, he's probably not transgender. But if your child who was assigned male at birth repeatedly insists over the course of months or years that she is a girl, then they're probably transgender. So I get, I specifically here, I guess they're saying it's more about the persistence. Like just because your kid says once or just because your kid says once or twice, like I want to be a girl, or I want to wear a dress, or I want to play with dolls, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are a specific way. But if they're constantly saying that over years, then that might be a more of an underlying clue that shouldn't go ignored, is what they're saying here, right? And then as well, they're saying children who are gender non-binary, in other words, they do not feel that they are a boy or a girl, but perhaps a little bit of both or neither, may not have words at a very young age to capture that feeling. Over time, it may become more clear to them and ultimately to you that they are non-binary versus trans girl or trans boy. So I understand that this is a whole nother world and it got a lot more complex there towards the end. But let's just focus on the first half here for a little bit. So if a kid, like let's say for example, I can make the fair assumption that we all didn't know the difference as kids. We might have seen a sibling playing with a doll and it's like, yo, I want to play. Like, what the fuck? Y'all are playing. I want to play. I'm over here sitting by myself, twiddling my thumbs, just bored as fuck. I want to play. Right? Yeah. Like, y'all are having a blast. My sister and her homies are in the room having a blast. I'm over here by myself. Like, hey, yo, can I play with y'all? No, dolls are for girls. And I'm like, the fuck am I supposed to be for the next hour? You feel me? Like as kids, we're innocent. Like, we might not know better, but like where do we draw that line as adults to understanding a difference like that? Like let's say for example, if you have a son and he wants to randomly play with Barbies one day, that doesn't mean anything realistically in a one-time instance. You get me?
No, because would you classify at that point? Like I remember having GI Joes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Power Rangers and shit, yeah.
And Spider-Man.
But that's what I'm saying. So
all of that shit.
like those things, yeah, they may be action figures. They're still dolls. You see what I'm saying?
That was just an official name to make it not gay back in like the 80s and shit like that.
Yeah.
So
the way they classified it, right?
They wanted to separate between a man, boys' dolls and girls' dolls. You know what I mean?
But that's what I'm saying. So like, if your kid wants to play with dolls, it's okay. Well, why don't you try to? If you're a parent, he goes to the store and he wants to play with a doll. All right, depending on the age range. If they're 4 and they want a freaking Cabbage Patch doll. I'm sorry, the kid's gonna get a freaking Cabbage Patch doll because there's nothing wrong with the kid having a Cabbage Patch doll. All right, now if he's like 8, 9, 10, and he goes off the shelf and he grabs a Barbie, they go, okay, well, how about this? You know what I mean? Not trying to give him that idea of showing him that there's different kinds of action figures. Maybe some kids in class brought some Barbies and are playing Barbie, and he's just seen it. He's like, kids play with dolls. Cool.
I think in that example, it'd probably be more with what Caveman was saying. Like, I think if we notice little things like that, like let's say an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, we're at the shop and I don't know where there's an 8-year-old boy that wants to buy a Barbie. I think at that point, it's perfectly okay. And we arguably should question as an adult, be like, why, like, what made you want to pick a Barbie? You know, like just out of curiosity.
Right.
I'm not saying you can't have it, but like, why that one? Like, there's literally a million toys in this one fucking aisle alone. What made you pick that one? And I think the answer and how we react to the answer is probably the most important and where most adults fail.
And if you have an issue with your kid playing a Barbie, why don't you get a basketball and go outside and play with a kid? Why don't you become an influence on your kid's life? You know, because it's not really what you do, it's how you make your kid feel. You know,
Yes.
if they associate a positive experience with a basketball or a football or something that makes you feel like your son's a son, like a real man, you know what I'm saying? Then do shit like that. You
But
know?
hold on, you can't say it like that either, though. Because hold on, now it's you also got to think about single mothers, moms out there. And I'm gonna tell you right now, single moms, don't be afraid to take your kid out and play. No matter if it's a boy, do boy things. You know, it may not be right there. Don't be a single mom that dresses your kid up. Okay.
I mean,
if you have
I'll tell you, like, I came from a single mom household. I never went outside and played with my mom. I never like my mom literally was the mom that was working and at home. She was just a mom. She cleaned, she cooked, she got on to me for doing stupid shit. Like
I know a couple.
But like my upbringing had more to do with the kids that I hung out with. My preferences had more to do with the kids that I hung out with. So at that point, for a lot of people, that's not in your control who your kids choose to hang out with.
Say it like that. Only reason I say it like that is because I know I have like a few friends that they have some kids that are boys, and they kind of like, it's like, dude, don't do that. He's a boy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know you're a single mom, but don't do that. He's a boy. You see what I'm saying? Like, they let him play with a makeup brush. They let him play with some makeup. Or if he wants to play with makeup, give him a coloring book. You know what I mean? Like, it's on those standpoints. It's some of these kids, it's not the way they feel. It's the way that they're being brought up. They're being shown makeup. They're being shown all these dresses. It's to a different standpoint. Like, Window, you had apparently you had some siblings that lived with you, right?
And growing up, yeah.
You weren't just an only child with your mother.
Correct. It was me and my sister.
Right. Okay, so.
But I was the only male in a female household where it was my grandmother, my aunt, my mother, and my sister, and then me.
Yes, but I was just saying. But your mom, if your mom seen you playing with makeup, what would she do? Or your sister seen you playing with your makeup?
They probably would have got mad that I just fucked up all their makeup, to be real with you.
Okay, but there's some, but I know, but like
because I know me, I didn't go, hey, let me be very delicate with this. I would have gone and be like, what's at the bottom of this tray? And then there goes $100. Like, don't let them alone in that room.
But you were being a boy. It's the fact of there's a mother that will go and see her kid throwing it. I see mommy do this 100 times, and they'll put it on, and then mommy's like, no, and then they'll do their makeup. You see what I'm saying?
So you're saying that it's a case of nurture instead of nature.
Yes.
So you can raise a kid to be more feminine than masculine.
Yes.
I mean, I think that's something that can't be argued, because like based off of your upbringing, right? But here's the thing, and here's where I want to make a distinction. We all know plenty of male that are very feminine, but that doesn't mean that they're gay or trans or whatever. And we all know plenty of females that are very masculine females. More testosterone probably than a lot of guys that I know, but that doesn't mean she's a lesbian or trans or whatever. You get me? So I think it's very important to distinguish that just because there might be a hormonal imbalance, that doesn't mean that changes their preference or the way they identify as themselves.
Well, like growing up, there was a kid, I'm not saying any names, but there was a kid that I went to school with, and we known for a long time. Like, even when we were like 5th or 6th grade, like, this kid, he's gay. You know what I mean? Like, we all knew it, and he just would never come out, and just never. And we finally figured out he would play with Barbies. He would do all the things that the girls were doing. He wanted to hang out with all the girls, and that's all he ever wanted to do with. Well, we ended up finding out one of the girls finally said, you know what, I'm going to figure this out. And she came on to him. Like, they could, like a girl, it's 10th, 11th, senior.
Like a girl testing him or whatever.
Testing him. She came out to him, and they've known each other for years. Like I said, they were in that same friend group. She even came out to say that she laid on his bed, buck ass naked. and tried to do stuff with him, and he turned her right down and pretty much came right out and finally said, no, I like men. Like, he's got to that age where he finally was able to just come out and say it. But those were those little things where it's, for the longest time,
It's kind of fucked to do all that just to find out. I'm just throwing it out there. That's no offense to your homegirl. That's a bitch move. I'm gonna just throw it out there.
I mean,
yeah.
But the thing was, like, they were friends, and it wasn't. But the thing of it wasn't like, I may have shouldn't make it sound bad, but because they were friends for that whole entire child growing up, she fell in love with him. She was in love with the kid.
Oh, so she actually was interested in him. It's not like she just fitted to do it. Oh, that's a little different.
To do it. All right. She was in love with the kid, and it comes out he finally said, "No, I'm gay." But that's where it was. We knew it. You know what I mean?
I got an opposite experience. I had this one classmate of mine in middle school that, bro, you swore this kid was gay, man. He was super freaking feminine, like how he spoke, his mannerisms, everything. You're like, all right, dude's gay. I mean, he was a cool kid. You know what I'm saying? Dude, pulled girls like nobody else, bro. He had girls like left and right and center, like Joker says, bro. It was crazy. And he liked girls. It's just that his mom raised him, and he grew up around a bunch of women, and he just learned their ways, and he was good with women. But he swore, bro, like he was like flamey, like super flamey, bro. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like, as a kid growing up, you're like, it was a mind fuck. You're like, damn, dude, I thought you like dudes. But bro, he pulled girls like nobody, and like nice girls, you know, like all the other kids wanted to be with these girls. Nah, he would pull them. Crazy, you know. So it's just kind of opposite experience.
That's yeah, I mean,
but that's
I don't
same
have
time
any story contributing.
No, so like
I don't have any kind of experiences this way.
It's at that point to, you know, to like kind of bring the circle back to full is, what is making these kids realize that they want to be part of the LGBTQ community?
I mean, sorry, I was just gonna say that's gonna be, I don't think we'll ever really find a true answer, because that's like saying what, like, imagine any clique. Let's just generalize here. Let's get off of this specific subject for a second, right? Let's just say music genre. What makes somebody like a specific genre? Like their upbringing, their personal choices, right? Like there's a lot that goes into it, but at the end of the day, it's just like,
what about,
it's almost impossible to determine.
What about people when they get locked up that go gay for the stay? What about that? Like, let's say you're a dude, right? And you serve 15 years in the pen, right? It gets lonely. Let's say you did some questionable
15 years with only guys.
15.
It's
15, bro.
I've heard that shit's just normal. To be real,
It's just normal
at that point.
But at the same time, too, though, it's just when you bring up the same, like, you know, go gay for the stay. But is it you really classify as being gay for the stay if you're with a cellmate that you're now getting raped your whole entire stay? You see what I'm saying? Now, is that making you now turn gay? Or is that you gay? You know what I mean?
I don't think so.
It's not. But if you knew some dude that come out of the pen that, you know, and your homie was in pen, and he told you like, dude, this dude used to get, you know, he was getting butt fucked all the time. Like, yeah, he started to just stop fussing about it.
Yeah. It's
you know what I mean?
Like, to give it up.
Basically, he just, at that point, he just submitted to whatever fucking shit that he was going to receive for the next few years or whatever it was, because if he was not fighting out of it, then he's just like, yeah, this is a normal thing now. He just submitted himself. You know what I mean?
But now the people that are doing that,
unfortunately,
are they gay? See what I'm saying?
Right, exactly.
I mean, it's a like, what was it? Like, there was a Twitter, right, feed, which the guy turned around, and I'll say the specific words that came into that Twitter was, right? Again, this is, I think even Windu knows about that tweet, right? Where the guy turned around and said, "Hey man, I got my dicks up by a dude, but it doesn't mean that I'm gay.
Right.
You're only
And
gay
when I saw that tweet,
if you give it.
yeah, like no, but the thing is like, nah, my dude, you're gay, like regardless, right? If you receive it or give it, you're gay.
Well, it makes me think of that movie. You guys ever
Guantanamo Bay?
Stanley Kumar? You ever seen that movie, Stanley Kumar?
Yeah.
They have a scene that's just like that in Harold and Kumar. Yeah.
It's
But-
like, I'm not
and here's something I want to.
for sucking my dick.
I need something into preference, of course. Like, you know, like me and Joker had a conversation about this because it's not even like, you know, like we don't even care whether the dude was gay or not. It's just the fact that that mindset came up, the fact that those thoughts came up, right? Like at that point, it almost seemed like a little unhealthy. Somebody in denial of something that they like.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like at that point, I think that guy was making the whole stigma for the LGBTQ plus even worse by making an argument like that. Instead of just coming out and saying, hey, I like this specific thing. Like, you know what? Okay, fuck it. You like your thing, whatever. But like that, you know what I mean? Like that stigma, like what the thought process made it worse.
That context of that text that he had written on that tweet made it sound like he enjoyed it. That was his happy thought. And, you know, things like that. It's just like the whole mindset was like, yo, I'm enjoying this shit. And this is me. I like this thing. You know what I mean? And afterwards he turned around and he just blasted out, which basically, if you look at the Twitter comments, is like a lot of gay dudes, a lot of guys came in there and says like, hey man, I am gay, but the way you said this shit and the way you said this in this tweet, I'm not gonna say that you're not gay. You are gay. You know what I mean?
See, and here's my thing on it too. I'm very bothered personally by individuals like that, because at the end of the day, that comes back to what we were saying, the whole nature nurture thing. That's a nurture thing. Like that's literally somebody that has preferences towards a male, and so what, be it, whatever, do your thing. But maybe like in his mind, the way he was brought up, the people he was around and shit, right? Like that mindset right there sounds like low-key a prison mindset. Be like, hey man, you low-key might like guys, but hey, as long as I'm not the one, you know, taking it, I ain't gay. Like that sounds like some shit you just convinced yourself while you were doing 10 years, my dude.
Yeah.
Like legit.
Yeah.
And I think that's a whole like nature nurture thing. Like I really think regardless of the preference that anybody has, whether it be our kids, whether it be these grown-ass adults that are out there, I think the nurture that goes around them, it's all fucked all over the world, all over the United States. Because regardless of what that preference is, the way some people react and the way that like the things that these like some of these people start believing to themselves, just like deny or be in denial. Like in that case, for example, it's like, hey man, you like guys, get over it, just say it, keep going, fucking go get a law degree, focus on something else.
But the tweet was what do you call it? It's one of those tweets, like one of those sentences where it was contradictory tweet. You know what I mean? It was just a very contradictory tweet. Like within that same sentence, he denied and he admitted that he was gay.
Let me ask you this, guys, because I saw this documentary on lions, right? And there was this old lion. He had his pride, and a new male came in to the pride, right? So the young male challenged the old male, you know, for the pride. He wants to be the top guy, right? So the young guy
about
takes
Lion King here.
No, not Lion King, not Lion King, the real fucking lion, right? Real fucking lion. So
you're talking about the circle of life.
Kind of, maybe. So check this out. Right? So the young lion takes out the old lion, kills him, right? Or doesn't kill him, but like he beats him. They have fights or whatever. So the old lion's laying there. So what does the young lion do? He comes up behind him and he mounts the old lion and he fucks him
to show his dominance.
shows dominance.
Dominance.
So do you think that it's also opportunity? Because I've also had friends that were lesbians. I met them as lesbians. Then they broke up with that specific partner, turned around, have a kid with a male, and then went right back to being lesbian. So, I mean, I guess that means bi, but is it also opportunity? You know, is it maybe?
What do you mean by opportunity?
Yeah, like.
Okay. Oh, okay. No. Okay. What you just said kind of, because I will say this, like, I think we've all seen, and this is kind of fucked up in general that this happens to a lot of kids, right? But we've all seen, let's say, a male that isn't the most attractive or a female that isn't the most attractive, right? Like it happens. Not everybody ends up not everybody ends up above a 3, right?
Yeah.
Like statistically 3 to 6 is the average population. Like not everybody ends up above a 3. Some people are literally 1s and 2s. It happens, right? But we've all seen these individuals that, like, for example, it's a girl that isn't the prettiest.
But I'm a 9.5 myself.
Shut the fuck up. Listen to this guy. Listen to this guy. His mullet counts for 7 points. Anyway.
The silver streak is 1.5 points.
Aye. But we've all seen these people that, let's say, for example, it's a guy or a girl that is not the best looking, right? It's a guy or girl that doesn't really take care of themselves. Let's say they might be morbidly obese, or they might just, you know, like, I think self-care really goes a lot into that situation, right? Yeah. And it's typically, I see it that it might be a guy or a girl that doesn't really get a lot of opportunities with the other sex because of the stigma that they fall into. You get me? Like specifically when you have, like, what is it? I saw a Tinder statistic the other day where females only swipe right to 20% of males that they see, but males swipe right to like 60 or 70% of females.
Yeah. Cast that net, bro.
Well, but I'm saying in general, you could still find yourself in the outlier of not, like, nobody's throwing a fishing line towards you, right? Yeah. So at that point, can moments like that, can upbringings like that have that mindset of, well, if girls aren't interested in me as a guy, does that mean I should be interested in guys instead? You get me? Like, there's people that start thinking like that.
It could be like, let me see if I can get any kind of an attention from the same sex. Do you know what I mean? So,
well, there's people like that. Like, I know girls that started as lesbians, never even tried to be straight because they never got a shot with a guy, were lesbians their entire life, and then 20, 30 years old, started taking care of themselves, started going to the gym, eating healthy, you know, like they're focusing on their career and stuff. And then out of nowhere, they just started talking to a guy, hit it off. Now they're married with kids and they got their own thing going. But then in a situation like that, it's like, well, was that just, like you mentioned, like an opportunity thing, like a lack of opportunity thereof? Or was it an actual personal choice? Because we all as guys know that oftentimes that choice is not up to us, whether we get accepted or not. We can cast our net, we can spit game or whatever, but it's ultimately, like, for example, you know, like me being a straight guy, it's ultimately up to the female whether she accepts me or not. Now, I can't say that I came from an upbringing where I got, you know, like a shit ton of rejections. We've all had rejections, right? But I can only imagine what it would be like growing up and every single attempt was a rejection. Never getting a single yes. You know what I mean? Like a lot, like the majority of guys at least get a couple yeses throughout their life. Even guys that are, like, you know, like not the most charismatic, not the best looking, etc. You know, just speaking from a guy's perspective, we at least get a yes here and there, right? But I can only imagine, like, what does that do to you psychologically if you never get a yes because of the way that you look or because of the way that people see you? You get me?
Yeah.
I can imagine that shit might fuck with your head so bad. And I can imagine somebody sitting there and be like, damn, bro, maybe the reason why it's not working is because I'm shooting at the wrong target. I could totally see people going down that route.
Yeah, but a lot of time too is though, like I've seen it where, like I had a buddy, he went with his sister's, I think it was his sister's engagement party or whatever it was. And he told his sister, you know, for your engagement gift, I'm going to take you and your bridesmaids and everything out, and we're going to go and have a party. You know what I mean? We're going to go drinking and everything else. Well, they went to a gay bar, and he's one of those dudes where he knows who he is. You know what I mean? It was nothing. He just went and sat at the bar, paid for all of his sister's drinks, for her friends' drinks, and let them party. And he literally told me, he's like, dude, it was the weirdest thing. He's like, I had such a blast at a gay bar, and I never got hit on once. And don't get me wrong, like he's not like some ugly ass dude. You know what I mean? Like he's well put together. He has money and everything else, but he never got hit on once. And he finally is like, you know what? It's kind of weird. He said, I asked somebody. I said, how come I'm at a gay bar? And I'm not a bad looking dude. I'm not getting hit on. The gay man literally came up, gay bartender literally said, honey, we can tell you're straight.
Oh,
like
that
we're not
the gaydar.
The gaydar. And that's what my friend said. He's like, that made me really think gaydar is real. Like it's real.
It's probably the way as his body language came across and everything that made them sit there and judge him. Probably they kept an eye on him since the time he entered into the place. And then afterwards, looking at his mannerisms, the way he talks, the way he speaks, probably just played into perspective. They're like, I don't see him being gay in any way.
He was partying with his sister. And that was like, he wasn't up there just... He's like, dude, I was having a good time. I was partying. We were hooting and hollering. Like we weren't, anything else in there. And he was like, so that makes me just go back to wonder, like, if the gaydar thing is real, then again, how is that really people knowing if they're really not gay or not? You know what I mean?
Well, I think that whole gaydar thing has more to do with the whole masculine feminine sort of vibe. Like for example, you can tell when a guy is more feminine regardless of whether like his actual appearance, right? And you can tell when a female is more masculine as well. And I think that's just them stereotyping in that case. You know what I mean? Because at that point, like, what is it? Like statistically, if you put like, let's say 10 pictures and 9 males are straight and one of them is gay, statistically a gay person will be able to kind of pull them out of the hat. But at that point, is that just because with estrogen and testosterone and stuff, like you can, like your facial features, like, like the way that you carry yourself, there's a lot that might be able to kind of give that shit away. Be real with you get me?
It's true.
But at that point, it's like we were talking about, is that just a stereotype because maybe there's a guy that has more estrogen regardless of everything and he gets picked out?
Like,
you feel me? Because we've all seen like plenty of homies, guys, whatever, that they're gay, but if you looked at them, you would never be able to tell.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Like never.
By fault.
I know, dude. He's fucking swollen than all hell. Like, freaking, like he's jacked out of his mind and everything else. You would never in a million years, if you would look at him, you would never know this dude was gay.
Like,
he's gay. He's gay.
But that's what I'm saying. That's literally even stigmas like that, like the whole, like LGBTQ plus, like they got their own radars or whatever. I think that's kind of fucking them up. Like that's something that makes them look even worse. You get me? Because at that point, you're singling people out. It's like, hey, you can tell. You get me? Where realistically, if it's a preference, you're not going to be able to fucking tell unless they decide to show it. If they decide to show it, then at that point, that's a little different, right? But it's stigmas like that are going to fuck everything up even more for the movement, right?
it's the whole movies, TV shows, the stigma that they portray about how a gay individual is or a trans individual is also like comes into play too. So, if you watch a movie, right, and then afterwards you see us like as a straight person or audience who's a straight person, and you see this man coming in there and they portray like he's gay in this specific way, you're like, okay, so that's what a gay man would look like. But for all you don't know what a gay man would look like, because that's just what you're watching and viewing.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? You don't know if that person is gay or bi or trans.
No, and this is probably going to be the wrong wording that I'm probably going to use, so please don't crucify me in the comments. But like, it gives the perspective, like, so what I've noticed, so with gay men or even gay women, I'm just going to use gay men in the thing, where it gives that really weird, that wrong word for gay men is the fairy, or the one that's more like flamboyant. There we go, that's a better word, because you get those ones that are more loud. They alter their voice, they do everything, like, you know what I mean, like in that standpoint. But I see that a lot more being shown in movies. I would say,
this is where they probably is kind of like a differentiator. So like the way they're being flamboyant and everything like that, I guess that falls under the queer section, right? Now, most of the time, media interprets the queer section as the gay section, right? So a lot of people have this misconception because there's not a lot of like a particular thing, because you don't know if this person is so and so, or you don't know if this person is so and so. But it generally, as soon as you think of gay, the word gay comes into your head, you automatically
associated one with the other.
Yeah, now you're automatically assuming you're flamboyant, you wear a purse, you'll be walking around doing your eyelashes, talking, oh, hey, honey. No, speaking in that kind of sense.
You do that kind of well, Joker.
Yeah, shut up.
Nah, man.
Hey, man, we've been talking about it. It's okay, bro.
Yeah, I mean, bro.
But no, I mean, but you bring up a great point. You bring up a great point, Joker. Like, the lack of knowledge and education is harmful for this entire movement and everything, right? And I guess you could say the other side of that coin, the lack of wanting to be educated, the lack of wanting to get knowledge. Because there are a lot of conservative individuals out there, which, to each his own. There's a lot of conservative individuals out there that is like, hey, man, I don't want to hear it. I don't care what's going on. This is the way I feel. Bam. This is the way it should be. And they're just completely closed off on
areas. Or educating the wrong areas. Like educating the LGBTQ plus movement in school for kids, or stuff like that. Like that, to me, that's the wrong place to educate. But they do need to find a way to educate it, and but don't put it towards kids. Like, they should honestly, like, if it's my opinion, and this may just be a biased opinion, but if you're gonna educate your community, do it to kids that have a higher demographic that can understand. Like I said, like we were talking about the other day about teachers doing it inside school. About, I can tell this kid's LGBTQ plus, I'm a supporter. Let's just support these kids. No, that's not the place that you do it. You're not paid to be an LGBTQ supporter. If you want to do that, do a seminar, or reach out to parents and tell parents that, I have no issue if you want a mediator into this to talk to your child. I believe your child is part of the LGBTQ community. I have extensive background, blah, blah, blah. Don't just teach it inside school. To a difference. So there are ways to educate it, but don't just force the education, because then you're going to get the wrong education across.
Like,
and
here's the
cause
thing,
more
like,
problems.
the best way to approach it is like, you get those, most of the time you get those cold slips that comes through your post box and just drops it like this leaflet of information, maybe
Yes.
for a pizza or maybe for a fucking Jehovah's Witness leaflet that you might just see over there, you know what I mean? So things like that, just drop it in there. I know sometimes it's gonna be unnoticed and a lot of people will just look at it and be like junk and throw it away, but then there are a few individuals out there who will look at it and be like, yo, let me see what kind of a coupon is going on today, let me see if I can get some kind of a discount, you know what I mean, or things like that. And those are the kind
Do you
of
think
people will
educating through cold meal?
Just
That sounds like a horrible idea, bro.
No, I'm not educating through cold mail. What I'm saying is, like, if you have a particular means of information that you can reach out to parents, saying that, look, if you ever need to discuss, if you ever need to talk about particular subjects in regarding to this particular thing, right? Here's a number you can contact. I have a background information and so. We will sit down and have a good discussion, and then maybe you can take some pointers and go home and see if you can do something better. You know,
like I was watching our last video there, of the woke Disney. Go ahead and go check it out, guys. It is, it's up there. It's rocking.
Good one.
It's a good podcast. But I was listening back to it, just kind of trying to give ourselves some feedback and stuff. And I looked up, how it gives recommended videos. Up on top, it was an ad. It said, the LGBTQ plus quiz to find out if you are LGBTQ plus. And then I hit refresh because I wanted to see some, check on views or whatever it was, or see another comment that popped up. And the next ad that popped up was to be able to tell if your child is LGBTQ plus quiz, doing it as a quiz. And to me, like those are all right ways of educating, because they're getting that point of an ad that maybe there is some preteen that's like, let me click this and just take this quick quiz, no more than 10 questions. And if it comes out with a thing, maybe don't know how these algorithms work on these quizzes or anything, but let's say it does come up, says, no, I am part of the LGBTQ plus community. I'm going to be thinking in my head, okay, let me go out and try to expand my education reach and figure out what this actually means.
I don't think you need a quiz to let you know if you like dudes or not. It's how you feel.
And it's just, but I'm saying, like, that's just ways of educating to get.
I mean, a lot of people
educate yourself.
I'd be probably, it's an assumption, but I think it'd be pretty fair to say that a lot of those individuals in general are either 100% sure or completely confused as to whether they support what they're feeling or whether they go for what they're feeling. You know what I mean? So I'm not against quizzes like that. Like, hey man, if there's clear signs that you just need some validation, I mean, sure, why not?
I think the first time you go to have sex with a dude and he tries to put that shit in your ass, you're gonna fucking know if you're down or not. Like, cause Jesus Christ, man, my hat's off to you.
I mean, no, you're totally right. Like, you're gonna find out. You're gonna find out one way or another for sure. But
yeah, but you can't say that either, though, because there's some kinky ass dudes out there that might just like the butthole lick, or like just a finger, like a little bit of a finger. But it's I'm saying,
that's
there's
different.
Some kinks. No, but there's some
finger.
No,
Jesus Christ.
What I'm saying is,
I can't.
What I'm saying is that there's some kinks. So does that make that person gay because they like those kinks? You see what I'm saying? That's where it's hard. There's some dudes out there that like to get pegged by women.
Yeah,
but they're not gay. You see what I'm saying?
I think that falls into that awkward conversation of far side argument versus a far side argument, and then the people that are in between, and what do they classify as when you're talking about left and right? You get what I'm saying?
This gray line is massive. Like, it really is.
Yeah.
Like, there's really no in between on it, and that's the hard part.
Yeah.
But guys, I mean, I do
Yeah, let's roll up here.
And I do want to give a quick shout out to I know we already gave some of our comments a shout out, but I do want to give one shout out to a guy named Stunt.
Hey.
All right, man, because Stunt, he did come through. We all, besides Caveman, I mean, I know you probably might want to get your opportunity to give in us conversation with Stunt. Very, very well-spoken human being.
Individual,
Yes, he just, hats off to him, man. In the comments he brought out to the saying, and he gave his hats off to us, you know, those three guys and a Brit. From last episode, he said this show is amazing. I personally, you guys have the way you engage the theme in all the episodes. That right there, I stopped reading for a minute, and it made me start recollecting what we were doing here. And guys, I do want to give a small round of applause to each and every one of us.
Hey,
Jeez, homies.
Notice
you guys.
I have noticed, man. We can pull an hour and a half conversation and not skip a beat on it. We're not trying to fumble for anything on it, and that's just awesome. And he even said the hour feels like 5 minutes. So
yeah,
it's in that, to me, that's a good sign. So Stunt, thank you for watching the podcast. We look forward to more of your comments. And then there's another guy here.
There's an individual called Bristle Ramjeet. Don't worry, sir. Your conversation, the topic, the information that you have brought out, we will go into it.
We just want to get more information.
Yeah. So
we just want to get more information.
When we gather more information and the more we research into this topic, we will have this discussion. And also, speaking of subscriber count, bro, we jumped from being from 22 to 66 with
small leaps, bro.
Within the leap of this month that we restarted this whole podcast. So I appreciate you all. And also the 66th subscriber happened to do it while we're doing this recording live right now. You know what I mean? So thank you for that individual, right? And also our last episode hit 400 and I believe 27. It is 27 views, right? So much appreciate.
That's less than a week.
Yes.
Yeah, that's less than a week, and that was published 5 days ago, 6 days ago, something like that, right? So
you guys are the ones that are making it happen. I mean,
yes.
I would
very much.
Love it. Like I said, I didn't see you in this one, but again, if you guys made it to this part of the podcast, go ahead in the comments. Dude, leave me a winky face.
Leave me a winky face.
Just to let us know who actually went through the whole entire podcast.
And made it to the end for sure.
I made it to the end. And please don't be afraid to share it with your friends, your family. We branch out to a lot of different age groups on this, so please, give us that thumbs up, and I thank you for your support.
We're trying to grow our listening numbers, right? So we also got our podcast on Spotify too. So go ahead and check it out there if you don't have time to actually sit down and watch the video. And sometimes if you're not a YouTube premium subscriber, you can't have it running in the background and stuff like that. So Spotify is a great way to actually sit down and listen to. I know a lot of people have Spotify premium and Spotify as a general, which allows you to play in the background. So, and also we are trying to branch out again to different platforms too, like Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. So keep a lookout for that. We will do it. However, all the information that we talk to, we'll also post the links below in the description as a reference material so that you can have a look through on the discussion about the soybean topic that we were talking about. Yes. Right. So,
and don't be afraid to join our Discord. I mean, that right there.
Yeah.
Guys, join our Discord. I'll have Windu post a link to the Discord in the comments. Join up there, and that's where we can talk. And we can talk outside of the podcast.
we would love to have an educated conversation with a lot of individuals who feel like you want to express your concerns or kind of like a comment that you want to throw it out there. We would love to have this kind of educational debate or a discussion so that we can learn along with you get an idea as from our point of view too. So don't be afraid to just be like, oh, we can't say anything bad or we can't say do anything wrong.
No.
Just do it.
Make it educational. Don't
and
just...
also like try not to be hateful. Try to be open-minded to other people's thought process too. You know what I mean? So be open-minded. Don't just reject that person's conversation or comment, whatever it is, altogether. Just try and be more approachable. If you do not like, just agree to disagree and move on. You know what I mean? So that's it. So appreciate it.
And more importantly, guys, hit the notification bell, because every week we're doing these podcasts and we're putting them out there, and we want you guys to stay up with the topics that we're talking about because they're very relevant, and we want to hear your opinion because it matters. This is what we do it for, is for you guys. So please hit the notification bell so you guys can know each week what we're talking about.
And hopefully by the end of the week, we will have an intro video to our YouTube channel.
Hey,
so keep an eye out for that too.
Hey.
You know what I mean? So just keep an eye out for that too. So I love it. I love today's conversation. You guys had this great insight on everyone's perspective and opinion. So it was very...
Yeah, these are talks that need... I think these are talks that we need to, as a generation, start to normalize. You get me?
Yeah.
It's okay to have a differentiating opinion. It's okay to still, for example, this is what you want, this is what you believe, that's perfectly fine. But that doesn't mean that we can't sit here and at least try to understand the other side. For example, all of us here can, let's say, at least as a fair assumption, we're all straight men. Right? That doesn't mean we can't sit here and understand. That doesn't mean we can't sit here and relate. You get me? Because at the end of the day, that's where all issues come from: lack of understanding.
Or try to understand where the other person's coming from. Is listening. See, a lot of people nowadays, man, they do this, and not a lot of this, and they don't use these. They just run this all the time. If you sit down and take a few seconds, man, and listen to somebody, it may change somebody's life. But guys, until next time.
Yep. Let's call it. Appreciate everybody stopping by.
Peace.
We'll catch you on the next video.
Thank you.
Yep.
Laters. Don't forget to wipe.
Peace. Don't forget.